I have zero clue where we're at, what the time is. I didn't realize we were really well into August until I saw everyone's wrap-ups and realized I nearly missed July's wrap-up. So here we are. So get your favorite drink or get your favorite product, get ready with me, and let's do this. Well, do I have a mixed bag for you guys. I read a ton of different genres. Now, I don't fully know how to rate these books because I don't really know what I fully think and how to convert those thoughts into star ratings. So we're just gonna hope for the best out here and we're gonna process this together, you and me, okay? Now, I mainly lost track of time because the Romance Readathon has started and it's led by Maggie's Books and Stuff. If you have not joined yet, feel free to do so. We're gonna start with Golden Sun. Golden Sun is the sequel to Red Rising, and I'm not gonna give you any spoilers per usual, but because I am talking about the sequel, there are obviously gonna be some spoilers from the first book. So if you have not read Red Rising, which was incredible, I recommend you skip Golden Sun and just move on to the next book. Now, Red Rising was freaking incredible, okay? If you're like a Hunger Games lover, you need to try Red Rising. It's basically that, but the adult version and just more mature in general. I also recommended this book for people that don't necessarily love sci-fi, and I'm like, trust me, you're gonna love this book. So I was really excited to get into Golden Sun because Red Rising was actually charting as some of my top reads of 2023. And that was really surprising because I didn't think I would love it like that much. But Darrow is like an amazing, complex MC. I just loved reading the revolution from his perspective, and it definitely dragged me into the story. So obviously I was super excited to start Golden Sun. Little did I know though that Golden Sun was so freaking boring. Okay, it wasn't completely boring, but it was definitely a freaking mixed bag. I was expecting more action, more tragedy, you know, everything that Red Rising was giving, but the pace was so bad. It was just so bad. I caught myself zoning out, really hoping for more things to happen, more to come out. I just felt like the dialogue was endless and boring and just very monotone often throughout the whole book. And there were even like juicy parts moving around, you know, like what's the tea? Give me the violence, show me what's happening. And it just took for freaking ever to actually get any action going along. It was the most frustrating thing ever because I love this series and I really wanted to keep loving it, and people promised me that it would get better, that it would change. And so part of me started thinking like, I think this is literally a part of the story, and the reason why the pacing is just so bad is because Darrow is literally like, I'm not good at politics, okay? Give me a sword, let me fight for the revolution, but I am not good at politics. And this world has a ton of politics that you need to navigate in order to have a fleet, which is his main goal. In order to be part of this revolution, they need an army. They need to move up the ranks. But no, Darrow ended up having to play all these politics, and I think Darrow was freaking right. This was the most boring thing ever, and I'm like super interested obviously in a good scheme, and I can definitely hold my own when talking about like, and this happened and these pieces moved and blah blah blah, but the way it was executed was just so poor. Unfortunately, there was like a lot of really good information, you know. We learned a lot more about all the different colors. So you have like the pinks, you have the reds, you have the blues, and we talk a little bit about this in Red Rising, but this book Golden Sun goes into it way deeper, and I love that. Like, I love when you give me more rules about a world and just all that world building. And so you learn just how deep the propaganda, I guess, goes, and the indoctrination of the gold being superior to all goes. And that, I thought that was really cool because Darrow didn't even know the world was completely free, and so now he's also figuring out how they indoctrinate other colors as well. And so there were pockets that were like, yes, finally we're getting somewhere. Oh my gosh. If you're gonna demand time from your reader this way, at least give us something to work with. You know what I mean? Can you tell I'm passionate about this? Can you tell in my pink eyeshadow glory that this is what's happening right now? So there were definitely moments that I was like, okay, we're getting into it finally. I've recently learned a lot more about Roman emperors and all the scandals they've done and all the crazy things they like just freaking nuts, okay? And basically in Golden Sun, all of these lead houses and their history sounds almost like Roman emperors trying to take over the crown, and just the freaking audacity and the craziness that these people do in this book is just insane. So that was also really entertaining. So I have to say, overall in this book, all the reveals and all of the world building and the information, if I were to break it down into bullet points for you, would sound so interesting, okay? And the ending was mind-blowing. Like, unfortunately, this is still a pretty chunk book and requires a lot of time. So for the amount of time that I was like getting bored and stuff, it just sucks that this wasn't paced in a different way or worded in a different way. But I'm glad I got through it, because we finally got these moments, we got these battle scenes, we got betrayals. But that also made my rating a little bit more difficult to do. No, that I hate when books are like blah and then the ending is amazing. I hate when books are amazing and the ending is blah, because I really do think the ending really freaking changes the way you look at a book. So I hate when they go either way. So I have to be honest, Golden Sun was turning into a 2-star read for me. I feel like I'm between 2 to 3 stars on this book. However, I will be continuing this story because it is just, I have to know. For this specific storyline, there are 3 books total, so I want to finish that 3rd one and see if I go into the other 5, I believe. The next book I want to go into is A River Enchanted. If you watched my last Books and Blush, you know that I read Divine Rivals, and I keep talking about that book so freaking much because it was just so freaking good. If you love a good enemies to lovers and all this stuff, you can definitely check out that video. I talk about it so much. I've talked about it in my life sprints. It's just so freaking good. And I realized that it's her writing. So Rebecca Ross is an incredible writer, and she really won me over just with, again, her writing, spectacular. And so I promised last month that I would start reading her other books, because if that's the way she writes, women can convince me to read her grocery list. But River Enchanted is an adult novel. It is not YA like Divine Rivals was. And so I was expecting a more complex, maybe no happily ever after type of storyline, more morally gray and complicated and lyrical. So I was like, that does not sound like a bad thing at all. I feel like I'm gonna love it. It was rough, okay? It was a little bit rough because it felt like the story just went on and on and on without really saying anything. And I understand that it's a lyrical story and it's supposed to feel very atmospheric and just a gorgeous poet, like flowery writing, and I have no problem with that. One of my favorite books of all time, which I can't wait to talk about with you, is so freaking flowery and poetic, but it actually says something and it moves the plot along. I felt like I was stuck in A River Enchanted for a good, like, I don't know, 30-60% of the book. So I'm not gonna lie, that was a little bit disappointing. There are multiple pieces in this book and there are multiple perspectives in this book as well, and that was fine. I mean, I love stories like that, but please connect for me. Please start weaving those threads together, because after a while of the same thing over and over again, it does feel like a lot of work for little reward. So I kept pushing through, of course, because I wanted to see what was actually going on in this town. And unfortunately, I figured it out pretty early what was going on in the book, because all of these little girls are missing and they think it's all the spirits that are upset. And I just figured it out way quicker than I would have liked. And I was like, okay, maybe it's not this obvious. Maybe it is something else, and it wasn't. It was exactly what I predicted. So that was kind of a bummer as well. Now, toward the end, here we go again. There was a lot that happened toward the end of the book. And so here we go again with a book that kind of dragged out for me, but then the ending was just like, bam, 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 bam. We're just gonna give you everything you ever wanted in the majority of this book in this last like 20%, 10% of the book. But I have to say, it was like really good. Like, it was really good reveals. I did not see some of those things coming, and the ending really tugged on my heart. So I was just like, why? Why does it have to be in this format? And in these percentages. I did talk about this with other friends, fortunately, who felt the same way, where they were like, yeah, it dragged a lot, but that ending was actually pretty freaking good. And so I will also continue the next book as well. But this one ended up being more solid for me. It's actually a solid 3 stars for me because I still really enjoyed the writing. I felt like the plot wasn't moving forward, but I did really appreciate the way she wrote everything, all the themes of family and forgiveness and second chance love, like all of those things I really did appreciate. It's just unfortunate that everything that I wanted to happen didn't happen until the end of the book. Like, why would you do that? All right, this next thread I won't get into too much because I already talked about it in like 2 other videos, but still on the down low because it's an arc and wasn't released yet, and that's Bring Me Your Midnight. I read this in July for its August 1st release. It was great. Like, what can I say that you haven't heard already? Great, atmospheric, really wonderful, different themes. If you like an MC that wants to figure out what she wants in life and what her actual purpose is and is trying to escape expectations, because maybe that's you, maybe you had heavy expectations on you, you would really enjoy hearing Tana's story. And I'll link the other 2 videos where I talked about it, but I won't want to repeat myself 3 videos in a row by talking about it again. So please feel free to check those out. But in the end, I gave Bring Me Your Midnight 4 stars, and I cannot wait to get my pre-ordered gorgeous copy. All right, to my Emily Henry fans, I finally got through an Emily Henry book. Now, don't come at me, okay? Don't come at me. But I did try Book Lovers a while back and I DNF'd. I tried it again and I DNF'd. So I think I need to try it one more time because people promised me that the MC gets better. I just could not with her narrative. But I know that was really big news because people just freaking adore Emily Henry, and you know, how is it possible that I don't like Emily Henry? I don't know, but I don't, okay? Like, it was not a favorite. I was really intrigued by Happy Place. I mean, I don't fully know what the plot was about, but it seemed kind of different from her last books. I don't know, maybe because it wasn't just like full-on romance that I was being pitched. I don't know what to tell you. I just know that it was really out there and I got curious, okay? Finally got my hold from the library, and you guys, I actually really liked it. I actually really enjoyed this book by Henry, and I'm just shocked that she's just popping out books like crazy. I'm like, can I get your writing, Juju? This book was so sweet and multifaceted. I loved that the MC really had this not so great relationship in her family. Like, they exist, but it's just not what she would have wanted in life. So it has found family, and I love that trope, okay? I love a found family trope. I think it's so beautiful, and like, this book just focuses on this friendship, and I mean, who wouldn't want this friendship in real life, you know? It made me think of like close friends that you can just really lean on that I have in real life and stuff. It's like, who wouldn't want this tradition of going with your best friends to this really gorgeous cabin every year and you're just together doing life. I loved reading about the friendships in this book, and it was just like super freaking cute. I've really enjoyed lately reading more books that focus a lot on like friendships, and it's not just all about romantic relationship, but you know, platonic. I think that's important, especially for people that are learning like, what do I want in a friendship? I think it's just really good to see healthy examples in fiction, if that makes sense. I don't know, like, what type of friendships do you want in your life? This was super cute. It still has romance, of course, and it actually has a second chance romance in this. And so I really loved the way the author actually separated these chapters, because Happy Place follows our MC, and she literally breaks down her history to the reader by talking about all the different happy places she's been to. And it was just so wholesome and so sweet, and I really felt for our MC when we finally got to a chapter that says not so happy place, and it was her actual home with her family. I just loved the realness in Emily Henry's book, that it's like the family you end up with isn't always the family that fits you perfectly or like that you want. Again, you just don't read that often in your books. So overall, I would say it's really cute. I needed some answers because in this book, her fiance and her are broken up, and like you as a reader, you don't really know why. Like, why did they break up? Who the heck knows? Not us, not right away. And it took a while. I was like, I need answers, because the more I read it, at the beginning I was like, okay, maybe something happened, but the more I read, the more I was like, why aren't they together? Like, they sound so freaking sweet. Like, there's no way he doesn't love her. Like, there's something completely off here. I was really worried that I might not like our main characters because something actually happened behind the scenes, and I'm just not a fan of cheating trope or anything like that. So I was really hoping for something wholesome, and I got it. So I really like this book, and I'm really curious about her other books. So if there's like an Emily Henry book that you recommend that is kind of similar to A Happy Place, I would be more than happy to take that recommendation. I still really need to try Book Lovers. Like, I feel like it's so freaking loved that I might give it one more chance now that I've been promised that the MC gets better. But if I cannot handle that point of view, I cannot get through the book. But I definitely want to try more of her books. I'm so surprised by this freaking author and how she, again, can just like pop out books like nothing. I mean, I'm just so freaking mind blown. And the fact that Drew Barrymore also liked this book, Happy Place, is wow. Really unapologetic characters in here. Talks about also like people pleasing and all of that stuff. So I can definitely see how a lot of like women would relate a lot to the main MC or any other character in this book. Super sweet, really liked it, recommend it, and I ended up giving this 4 stars. Okay, now for my final book. I ended up reading A Court of Wings and Fury. This is the 3rd book of ACOTAR, so yes, I'm invested. I'm in there, I'm doing the thing. If you're new here, then you should know that I did not like ACOTAR, and there's actually a whole rant around it because it was just not my favorite. It was so dumb, okay? Let's be real, it was. But I continued on to the 2nd book despite my freaking sussery, and I loved it. So now I'm in here in book 3, and I have some things to say. First of all, I totally understand the hype. Oh my gosh, this is a fantastical read. It is so fantasy. I can see why it's romantasy. I can see why it's a top fantasy book. You win, okay? You win. I'm basically done with Feyre's story and all blah, 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 because as far as I know, the other 2 books are about something else, and we'll get there. But A Court of Wings and Fury definitely gave me the pure fantasy, action-packed aspect that I've been waiting and was promised from ACOTAR and did not get, okay? But here I am giving things chances. I am that second chance romance trope with books. So A Court of Mist and Fury really touched my heart. It was definitely more of an emotional read. Now, while A Court of Mist and Fury is more emotional, A Court of Wings and Ruin is more action, more plot driven than character driven. And I feel like I really missed some of the character driven aspects. In this book, we definitely look at the war that's breaking out more plotting, more scheming, more action filled scenes. And honestly, it was so good. I did not expect the author to make me feel as much as she made me feel. Okay, no spoilers, I promise. But there are some scenes that happen in this book that I was like, am I supposed to be sad about this? Because I remember these things were not good. They were like bad juju, and here I am sad about the bad juju ending. And so I feel like when an author can, you know, manipulate your emotions and leave you feeling different ways than you would have expected, they've done a good job. The fact that I cared about all these different characters was so surprising to me. And I was live chatting with a friend because she started this book at a time that I was finishing this book. So our overlap was actually pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. Now, I put up a poll asking you guys, like, I'm just finishing A Court of Wings and Ruin, and I have an unpopular opinion. What do you think that unpopular opinion is? And here are the results of the survey right here, so you can see what it was. And the truth is that I don't get why Tamlin is hated so much. Listen, don't unsubscribe, don't go anywhere, okay? No, I'm not a quote-unquote Tamlin sympathizer, maybe kind of, but I have seen way freaking worse characters, okay, in books that have done way crazier things, and I was expecting Tamlin to be one of those. With just how much the freaking fandom hates him so freaking much, I was like, dang, this dude is for real doing doing like some shady stuff, unforgivable stuff, you know, he can never be redeemed from, to hate, you know, like an absolute evil villain, no gray in there, nothing good. I was fully expecting that level of audacity and evilness. I mean, literally the fandom hates him so freaking much that they even call him Tampon, okay? Like, I've literally seen so many memes just on hating Tamlin. Now, don't get me wrong, Tamlin did a lot of terrible stuff, for sure. I am not arguing that at all. The way he treated Feyre, the way he could not see her perspective or believe her. I feel like it's a perfect example of how sometimes women say one thing and the world just doesn't hear it, like doesn't want to believe it. And of course there's that whole like war thing and everything, but like Tamlin did made some good points in A Court of Wings and Ruin, when like no one would believe that Rhysand and his friends were actually for the people because they left Tamlin in the freaking dump, and all because Feyre was like really petty at everything that Tamlin did and didn't think forward. I mean, yes and no. Like, I wanted Feyre to get back at him so bad and take her power back and take her voice back, but she even admitted she didn't see long term or see what should actually be done for the benefit of everybody and not just for her revenge. And then by the end of A Court of Wings and Ruin, Tamlin does the right thing. There's a lot of things he does right. And I just want to point out that even Rhysand admitted that if he were not surrounded by the friends he's surrounded by, so Mor and Amren or even Cassian and Asriel, he said he would have become something completely different. And he even singles out Amren and says, thank you for being in my life, because if it weren't for you, I would not know how to control my powers, and I could very well end up like the King of Hybern. With the way he was brought up, what he was seeing, the types of leadership that he had as examples, like his father was a terrible person. Tamlin was basically in that same exact situation. He had a terrible example of a father, this awful court that was just at each other, and he didn't have anyone to actually guide him or tell him no. And in my opinion, I was even more annoyed by Lucien doing nothing, being a bystander, than Tamlin, because Rhysand had people that told him no and that it was a bad idea. Tamlin did not. And so that's my hot take, okay? That he literally did end up doing the right thing on his own. And I'm just like, Sarah J. Maas, pick a side. Like, do you hate this character? Is this some ex-boyfriend that you freaking hated, that you were in love with while you were writing ACOTAR, and completely switched around and made him this hated character in A Court of Mist and Fury, and then changed your mind again? You were like, you know what? He's not really that bad. I should like forgive him, and then changed your mind in A Court of Wings and Ruin, because Tamlin ain't Tamlin, right? Okay, like he's either one or the other. Is he fully hated, or is he morally gray and just needs to heal? But I did see other people in this fandom also believe that Tamlin can be redeemed, and so they're wondering, like, if Nesta can be redeemed in A Court of Silver Flames, can Tamlin be redeemed in some other ACOTAR story? And so for me, when it comes to Tamlin, it's less about like, I want him to have a happily ever after with the perfect mate, and more about, I want him to freaking heal and do some inner work and become the leader that he told Feyre he wanted to be in ACOTAR. That dude has some intense PTSD manifesting itself into anger issues, because he was not like that in ACOTAR with her, even when she was like pissing him off. I'm glad Feyre left him. They're obviously not meant for each other. They're not supposed to be together. But I'm guessing my man's is feeling some intense abandonment issues, like part 2. And he certainly wasn't equipped emotionally to help her heal through all that freaking trauma, just like he's not equipped to heal himself through all this trauma. And so by the end of the book, he's also left with nothing. Like, he has no soldiers that backed him up. Like, his priestess is gone. His best friend Lucien completely left as well. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen next. That's basically my hot take on Tam Tam. Like, that could have basically been Feyre if she wasn't completely abused by her sisters for years and years and kind of used to shoving herself down. And now that she met Rhysand, she's this more outspoken, better person that knows how to do the right thing. She could have been this really sad character as well. So it really does take a village, okay, to grow as a person, to raise people to be the best versions of themselves and like coax that out. I am continuing this series. I put my hold for A Court of Frost or something like that. People have said it's a little bit boring, but I would like to have the full scope of the story. You know me. And so I want to read this novella before I move on to Court of Silver Flames, where we finally get Nessa's story, which by the way, like she was still freaking horrible in A Court of Wings and Ruin. I was like, girl, what's wrong with you? Okay, can you like talk like a normal person? Again, an example of a person that just doesn't know how to heal, how to communicate, how to talk right. And I was really surprised that she warmed up to Feyre throughout the book. That made me happier. I was really sad that Feyre finally had the guts to ask her a really important question, and it was interrupted by this freaking action scene. I was so mad. This is what I mean where this book is more plot driven than character driven. I just really wanted to know Nessa's answer, so I hope that question is answered in A Court of Silver Flames. I will get back to you on that. But in the end, I gave A Court of Wings and Fury 5 stars because there was just so much going on. All these characters are still super multi-rich. I love fantasy. This is definitely a book for people that love fantasy. But that is it, you guys. That is what I read in July, and now I'm reading books for the readathon. Please join if you want. If you enjoyed hanging out with me today, make sure you hit subscribe, like, and comment, all of that good stuff that just makes me feel like you actually enjoy hanging out here with me. More vlogs are coming, I promise. This is something you have asked for and I will provide. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.